Well, good morning. It's a Sunday towards the end of July, and you wouldn't believe that from the weather, would you? Look at these clouds, and there's a bit of a breeze. So I've come down here to the shoreline at Chichester Marina just to have a little chat before quite a busy day, I think. This channel is really, hopefully, inspiring people to consider having a boat. There's some fish at the surface. Oh, they're beautiful. Sampaguita wasn't expensive compared to many boats. I bought her a year ago for under £20,000, which is still a lot of money, but many boats can cost 10 times that much, or even 50 times that much if you're going to buy a brand new catamaran. So she was under £20,000, and since then obviously I have spent a fair amount of money maintaining the engine and upgrading the electronics, and there's plenty more to do, especially when my wife gets on with the interior and the upholstery and the general decoration, which she's looking forward to doing. But I'm just doing some of the basics around safety, like the navigation lights and radio and some of the electrical items, so that she's good to cruise this summer. I'm down here on a Sunday because Becky and I are planning to go out on probably a 2 or 3 night little mini break later this week, when the weather I think will be better than this. It's sunny, a bit overcast, winds around 10 knots, so hopefully we'll get the sails up a fair amount, and we're just going to head along the Solent in between Portsmouth, Southampton and the Isle of Wight, and there's a few places we hope to stop. So subscribe if you haven't already, and you can see us use the boat for our first multi-night break since we bought her. Today's more about finishing off some things. I want to wire in Starlink properly, and there's a bit of a interesting thing about Starlink power, because it's quite power hungry. So I'll show you that in a minute. I want to wire in the Falcon 4G unit for when I'm within reach of sail masts. I want to wire in the 12 volts to the rear cabin so that we can have our little Halfords cooler while we're on this break for drinks and things, and as well as our ice box, which doesn't have any refrigeration, but we can put some frozen blocks and some ice cubes in it. So I want to get those kind of things done, just so that she's fully ready. And compared to normal, I'll try and video a bit more of that for those of you interested in boat electrics and DIY. I'm filming down here because it's still quite early and I don't want to wake anyone who's sleeping on their boat. But it's great to have you watching the video. Thank you for investing the time, and I hope this mix of maintaining a 40-year-old sailboat, some upgrades and some mini breaks is interesting for you to watch. Thanks for watching. So here we are on the boat, ahead of a busy day. I need to do some wiring, and I haven't actually shown you a few things before, so this is quite a good time. I haven't shown you the bilge. I forgot that on the walkabout the boat in Gosport Marina, because I painted the bilge, I sorted out the bilge pump, it was in the wrong place and the wiring was quite corroded. So I'll show you that, and then we're going to flip down the DC panel and we're going to start running some wires. To make that easier, I've run a mousing line, so I'll show you that as well. It's a nice long blue line with a loop in the middle, so I can use it to haul wires in either direction between the bilges and up behind the panel. But let me show you the bilges. So here's the bilges. You can see there's quite a lot of wiring now where my foot is, including like the AC lines, wires and everything else. I think that's speed through water sensor. This is a new bilge pump that I put in, similar kind of power as the old one, but the pipe, well, basically it used to be free to move, and it naturally, because of the pipe, wanted to be up here somewhere. So it was, you might not see it, but there's a gentle curve here. This is the bottom of the curve. So I've actually put
put the wiring in and attached the pipe to the bulkhead, and also moved the wiring very much clear of where any water might be, and used these shrink glue heat shrink. This is my mousing line here, so that the bilge pump will work, and then it's just got a switch up here, so it's on automatic at the moment. That's how I leave it, so it can come on anytime it likes, but you can also manually switch it on if you want, but I just leave it on auto. And yeah, I painted all that when the boat was on the hard, so it's staying quite nice and clean. So let's get that DC panel off and start pulling some lines. Before I take that panel off completely, the first thing I'm going to wire in is the Falcon 4G unit. I've got a Sky SIM card in there, and that's up on the stern, but I want to make sure, because I'm going to cut the wire, that I understand which is positive and which is negative on the wire. It should be the normal one, which is positive on the inside of one of these barrel jacks, but there's no point blowing things up and making a mistake. So I have this cigarette lighter / 12 volt supply, so let's see what we get. Yeah, positive is indeed on the inside of this. So I don't think I've shown you the inside of the DC panel properly, so let's take a look. It's quite neat. It still needs finishing and labelling, and there is still some old wire here, such as that, which I'm not using. I've just labelled and tied away. There's the end of my mousing line for pulling wires. The radio is only connected to VHF aerial on the mast and power, so there's some other cables here because you can plug it into your Namiya 2000. These are the battery test meters and switch, and I could shorten those wires and tidy it up as well. But I'm going to connect this switch and fuse, which is spare. This is going to power either the Starlink or the Falcon 4G unit through this switch. I was just checking the continuity on that. So we'll have one or the other or neither, because Starlink's quite power hungry, so we'll only turn it on, you know, when we actually need that kind of bandwidth. Otherwise 4G should be perfectly good. And the reason, so why do we even have a 4G unit? I mean, we've got mobile phones, right? Well, when you're sitting in the boat, the table is almost at sea level. I guess sea level is somewhere around the bottom of the seat, so you're centimetres off sea level, and therefore you just don't get as much signal coverage in a boat typically as you do at home, or when you're walking around. You might be metres or hundreds of metres above sea level, but here, you know, the whole boat, if you look at the marina, for example, the marina itself is lower than the surrounding car park, so you don't generally get great good signal on a boat. I've just got my neighbour arriving and I want to go and help him. I'll be back.
Right, now I said, so this is nearly finished. I put the mains into the socket. That's what's currently charging this battery. We can use that because it has a built-in AC output, 500 watt, which is enough for a 300 watt kettle that I've got, and we can use that effectively to power back into the inverter circuit. Yeah, because I don't have an inverter, don't have lithium yet, but I will in the future. So what I'm actually going to do is run a cable here long enough to get in the cupboard behind me, which is where the lithium will go, and put a plug on the end of that, and then I can for now just plug it into here. So when we're out on our holiday we can get a little bit of electricity for boiling a kettle without using gas, charging laptops, things like that, just out of the sockets. So I'm just charging that before we go away in a few days. It's at 98%. So that's what's plugged in there. This is the long mains cable I told you about, for the lead acid batteries, the 2 lead acid batteries that are under here. And I just want to shorten that cable. Don't want it dangling near the engine. So, and then this is the 12 volt cigarette lighter type socket that I'm now going to wire in with this cable that I pulled through, in order to power this Halford's kind of mini fridge thing. So it's a bit messy in here because I've piled everything up, but I'll tidy it before we go away. So that's a bit neater. Switch it on and it's now charging again. Okay, so I've just brought you back now that all of this is finished. Everything now is wired in. Nice short cable for the lead acid battery charger. 12 volt supply is now plumbed in, and that red light is on the plug for this Halford's. Looks like it keeps things cold or hot. There's a button in there. So it's got a cooler and a heater. I don't know how effective it is. We will find out. And because it's on the 12 volt circuit, so there's a little fan you can hear. Yeah, I can feel hot air coming out here. So it's only been on a minute. Let's leave that a while. I think the idea being we'll have to keep an eye on the current. So I actually checked, it's taking about 3.5 amps, so it's quite a lot at 12 volts. But the idea is, at least when we're in the marina, it's all fine, because effectively our whole 12 volt system is driven by the Victron, and so it's not depleting the batteries at all. And then maybe we'll turn it off when we head out to sea and hopefully at least for cans of drink and bottles of water and things, it should keep things cool. That's the plan. And if I bring you back here, so that's just wired in and fused. And now I need to wire in this switch for Starlink or Falcon 4G. So I'll crack on with that. Just thought I'd show you the inside of the AC panel, because I don't think I've shown you this before. There's the supply loom, so that's bringing in shore power, and also now this cable down here, which I'm going to put a plug on the end so I can plug it into my battery pack that's got a built-in inverter. And this is a loom that takes the mains and distributes it to various things around the boat. So it's quite neat. It's okay. I'll come back and label things when I'm finally done, but overall looks all right. Right, so let's test the battery and inverter input now to the AC panel. So let's reduce the load. It should be to pretty much 0, and you can see we've still got shore power on. And I will turn it to 0. And here's this, it's 0.5 kilowatt hour battery, and it's 100% charged. I hope you can see that there. And I'm now going to plug that in to the AC socket. It can drive up to 500 watts. And now look, inverter 2 input has now got a green light. So let's select that. And now our shore power is at 0 amps, but there's a little bit of residual current flowing on that input. So let's turn on the outlets. And I heard a beep. Yes, because that's now... What's plugged in? Don't know. Something must be plugged in an outlet. Okay. Oh, it's the microwave. It's the microwave. Of course it is. But what I do have over here is a 300 watt travel kettle. So I won't be able to use this kettle, I don't think, because that is 600 watts. So we won't use that when on the inverter. But I put some water in it, and I can now turn it on and say take up to, yeah, it's quite clever. You can either have boiling water 80, 55 or 45. So let's put that on 45, and now I can actually hear a fan come on this, so I can just sit down here, and we're drawing an amp, which is about right, at nearly 230 volts. And I'll have a coffee, I think. Let's put the lid on. It's hard doing this with one hand. Anyway, it's lifting it up to 45 degrees. It's now down to 99%, and it says it's drawing 203 watts. 207 watts. I've still got shoreline green because there's still actually electricity presenting to this switch from shore power. It's just that I've selected the inverter to power the boat. Okay, I said I'd bring you back at the end of a very long day. Oh my goodness me. It's 7:15 in the evening. I started about 7 this morning. But I've done loads of things, including wiring up Starlink and the 4G. The 4G, they're both off this switch. You can have one or the other. I'll show you the front in a minute. The 4G just goes straight from the switch. The Starlink, though, if you read up, you'll see that the cable they provide is really thin,
and there's a power line and kind of a screen, and they use the screen for effectively the 0 volt or ground line, whichever way you want to look at it. And this thing, if you really feed it 12 volts, by the other end, by the time it reaches Starlink, it's down at 9 volts, and the unit will not work very well. So loads of people have got advice. I've actually run a much thicker cable most of the way, and then it goes to the Starlink cable near the end to minimize losses. But I've also got a 12 to 24 volt booster converter, which is completely cold, even though Starlink's running at the moment. And so I'm actually feeding it 24 volts. And so at the other end with my cable it's probably 23, 22, but it's definitely above 12. The Starlink needs to be fed 12 to 30. So that is working really well. I'll just seal all this up again. So the Falcon 4G unit, SkySim, neatly cabled in. Starlink with its thin wire cabled in, and that then goes to a switch on the DC panel, so you can choose what kind of Wi-Fi you want. So there's the DC panel. I've stuck some temporary stickers on to identify things. It looks a bit rubbish, but I can print out a new vinyl anytime. So when you want Wi-Fi, you turn on this switch with its fuse, and then you get to choose either Starlink, which is what's connected at the moment, or you can have nothing, or go on to 4G, and then it turns off the power to the Starlink and turns on the power to the 4G with its SkySim in, and that works nicely. You'll see we're drawing lots of current at the moment because I've still got that fridge running in the back full of cans. Let's see if it's cold. Oh yeah, it's actually nice and cold. So that's good. This is charged to 99%, so I can turn that off now and seal up the windows and get the boat ready to go, so we can come down and go out straight away on Wednesday. But all in all, a successful day.